Hey everyone, I'm so glad to be chatting with you today. Thanks for dropping by. Today I am catching up. It's been about 2 months and it's been a wild 2 months. The last video that I posted, I believe, was regarding supplements, and I was just getting into supplements as I had seen that I was not meeting the daily recommendations for certain nutrients, and I was venturing into that realm, wondering if maybe it could help with migraines. And so, yeah, around that same time, there was a reduction in force at my employer, so I was laid off. So I have been in job search mode and also studying for a professional certification. So that's where I've been. So thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for being patient. Today I want to talk about the supplements that I did try. So this is a bit of a debrief. The supplements that I tried were vitamin B1, B5, methylated folate, and a zinc and copper combo. I also had started taking B2 prior to trying these specific supplements, and I'll kind of elaborate on that in a minute. But those were the primary areas where I was seeing deficiencies on the Cranometer app. And so those were the ones I was most interested in taking, in addition to the B2 as it had been recommended by my neurologist. So for migraine. So all that to say, my disclaimer, as always, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician. Please be sure that you talk to your physician before making any changes, including with supplements. Just because something is natural does not mean that it's necessarily safe for you in your specific situation. Also, just a disclaimer, I am not looking for advice on supplements following this. I'm actually going to be meeting with an integrative medicine specialist soon. So while I really appreciate the hearts behind those who would recommend things, it just gets really, really complicated with the conditions that I've got. So it just gets kind of exhausting trying to manage that kind of feedback. So anyways, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to share days 1 through 3 of my supplements. It was a very small trial, and you'll quickly learn why. I'm going to share the side effects that I experienced, or at least what I perceive to be side effects from taking these supplements, and where I'm at now. So day 1, I want to give a little context as well. I was taking several other medications along with these additions. Those include potassium chloride, a few different versions of magnesium, including magnesium threonate, magnesium glycinate, taurate, and malate, as well as orotate. And then I was taking another chelated magnesium glycinate, B2, based on recommendation from my neurologist for migraine, as well as ubiquinol, active coenzyme Q10, and vitamin D3. Now, a note that I had started to experience mild muscle weakness after starting taking B2, which is riboflavin. I didn't really think much of it because my muscle weakness kind of fluctuates depending on a lot of factors. So I didn't really think of it as necessarily related to the B2 initially. Having been through the experience with these other supplements, I'm a little bit more leery of it regarding specifically my muscle weakness experiences. So I'll get into a little bit of that. I'm going to share the specific supplements, the B1, B5, zinc, copper, and folate that I was taking. This is not a recommendation for these particular brands, nor is it it's not to bash these brands at all. I don't think that my side effects were related to the brands necessarily. I think that it has much to do with my conditions. So that that being said, the supplements that I tried out were the Gero Formula Zinc Balance, 15 milligram zinc L methionine sulfate, 1 milligram copper as gluconate. I took 1 capsule of that. The Life Extension Optimized Folate, L-methylfolate, 1,700 micrograms as 6S5-methyl tetrate hydrofolate calcium salt. That's a mouthful. And I took 1 capsule of that. The Life Extension benfotiamine with thiamine at 25 milligrams thiamine HCl and benfotiamine 100 milligrams. I took 1 capsule of that. And the Now pantothenic acid, 500 milligrams pantothenic acid from calcium pantothenate, 45 milligrams calcium from calcium pantothenate. I took 1 capsule of that. The B2 for reference was Nutricost. And I can't remember how much I was taking. I was advised to take up to 100 milligrams. I think I was taking less than that just because I was being on the cautious side. So those were the supplements that I tried out. The day one, throughout the day, I felt pretty great. I felt like my eye focus and eye movements were much more smooth. I've had some issues with that in the past. My mood felt really great. I had a greater sense of calm and relaxation. I had more feeling in my hands and my feet. I felt more in my body and grounded. And this was something I did not expect, which was I had less neck tension when I was going upstairs. I guess from looking down, I never realized that I was having tension like that when I was going upstairs, but I noticed its absence the day that I started taking these supplements. Now, there are a lot of different variables going on. This was after like 3 days of stormy weather that included lightning and thundering. This was during days that those were all happening. And I can tell you that my migraines tend to happen like before or after stormy weather. And like once it's actually raining, I'm feeling pretty good. So maybe like this was just because like weather related, my body was feeling better because of barometric pressure, what have you. I don't know. But I did note those improvements during that day that I was taking the supplements. I did also notice that I had mild muscle weakness throughout the day, and I felt more potsy than usual, which seemed important to note because in December of 2022, I was told that I no longer meet the criteria for POTS, which means that I have improved to the point that I don't meet the diagnostic criteria, which is a good thing. So it was significant to me that I was feeling more potsy than usual because that's not been my norm of late. So I noted that. But mostly felt pretty good during the day. Now, once I got to the evening, it was a whole different story. I was preparing to go to bed around 10:30 and 11, and I noticed that I started to have a headache. I got extremely thirsty, like dry mouth feeling thirsty, and I was not dehydrated. I had my normal amount of water, my normal amount of sodium intake that day, so I didn't really understand why I felt so thirsty. And then I had extreme anxiety. I felt very claustrophobic, and I had pins and needles in my left arm. Now, I have had these kind of symptoms before. Initially, this was when I first noticed them, I was in California. I think I've shared in another video or two about those experiences, but basically, I was told that they were panic attacks when I went to an urgent care. I went for a second opinion at a different urgent care. Didn't really find anything conclusive. But because I now have a periodic paralysis, diagnosis, and because I was taking, or I was consuming and engaging in so much physical exercise and consuming a lot of carbs to keep on weight. I was vegan, I was gluten free, I was taking in a lot of licorice based teas, and I think I was even having caffeinated coffee. Like all of those, oh, and nutritional yeast that has a lot of B vitamins in it. And I was having these kind of episodes. And since then, I've noticed that if I consume high carbohydrate, high glycemic, high sugar foods that also trigger my periodic paralysis, I tend to have those symptoms, like those feelings of anxiety, that panic attack, like impending doom kind of feeling, like that happens. And the muscle weakness may or may not occur before or after that. So I think this also can potentially happen before I get a migraine, like the actual headache part of a migraine, like as part of the prodrome or postdrome. So it can be really difficult to distinguish if what I'm having is a migraine and I need to take migraine meds, or if it's periodic paralysis related and I may need to up my potassium. The way that I kind of rule out anxiety is because, like, I have been to like therapy, and I was kind of kicked out after like 4 sessions because she was like, "You're doing great." I have like learned panic attack protocol, and like embracing my feelings, mindfulness. I'm pretty like self-directed in my mental health, and I'm very proactive in that arena. So I know, like, for me, if I am trying to address feelings of anxiety in the moment with, a panic attack protocol, or like whatever other mental health tools I have learned, and I notice that those tools aren't working, I tend to think that those feelings of anxiety are either migraine or periodic paralysis related. And the reason that I think that it's important for me to distinguish that is because I can get really frustrated if, like, I keep having the symptoms and I'm doing everything that I can think to do psychologically to work my way out of it, or to embrace my feelings, and it's not working. It just gets really frustrating. But so I had already done all that. But I thought, okay, maybe this is migraine, and so decided to go to bed and see if the symptoms would dissipate after sleeping. I actually ended up waking up around 2:30 and still felt terrible, still felt the same. And so that's when I decided to use my potassium meter, and my I use the Quali app to kind of gauge like what's normal for me and what's not, in terms of my heart rhythms and the length of certain heart intervals. And so that's what I decided to do. Now, grant you, I am not used to taking these readings at 2, 3 in the morning, so I don't have an established baseline. So take all of this with a grain of salt, right? Also, the potassium meter that I have is the Hariba potassium meter, and it's not really meant for this purpose. It's, I think, meant for more agricultural purposes. People in the periodic paralysis support groups have used it to help manage their PP symptoms successfully, but this is not a recommendation to do this necessarily. This is just my way of like how I have learned to recognize my body's signals for when I'm having certain symptoms, and my way of like addressing those symptoms. So that being said, using my smartwatch and the Quali app, I saw that my QTC interval, which is the like calibrated QT interval, if I understand correctly, was 439 milliseconds, which was on the high. It's like within the normal range, but it's on the higher end for me. My like average that I've done and using the Quali app is typically like 425 milliseconds. Now, I think that like that average could be biased because I tend to use the Quality app more often when I'm having cardiac symptoms. So I think that that average could be kind of like biased towards those moments. And so I might not have a clear picture of what my QTC is like during normal, like not having cardiac symptoms. So that's something I'm keeping in mind. But I did think it was kind of significant that my QTC was a little bit longer than usual, potentially. Like I'm not a cardiologist, but that's just something I have my mind on. Especially because the type of periodic paralysis that I suspect for myself, I have a KCNJ2 mutation, which is very close in location to the other recognized mutations for Anderson-Tawil syndrome. And Anderson-Tawil syndrome is associated with long QT issues. So periodic paralysis, like there's a whole, I think, area ripe for discovery in terms of heart issues related to periodic paralysis. It's just not quite, the research hasn't really been done in that area quite yet. So that's an area of interest to me, but it can be really tricky to identify, for doctors, like what is actually related to periodic paralysis and what is just a comorbid cardiac issue, not just in the sense of it being a minor thing, but what's separate, how are the conditions separate from one another and how are they connected, if at all. So anyways, when I took my potassium reading with the potassium meter, the Hurriwa potassium meter, it was also higher than usual for me. It was at 4.68 mmol per liter. And I apologize because I don't remember what the mmol stands for, but that's kind of high for me. And like I said, I'm not used to taking my potassium at this hour of the morning, so maybe that's normal and I just don't know it. But that is the kind of reading that I typically have when I'm coming out of a periodic paralysis attack. So in my mind, it's reasonable to think that I was having some kind of potassium fluctuation intracellularly that could have been causing my symptoms. Now, once I wrapped up doing these readings, I started to feel better. I had less anxiety. The pins and needles were going away. I had started to have like jaw soreness, and that was going away. And so I was starting to feel better. I took a fast-acting packet of potassium chloride, 20 MEQs, to make sure that I had enough potassium in my system as my body was recuperating. I think I might have overcompensated because I immediately got a headache, but I also had some wheat thins with it to kind of help balance out the potassium with a little bit of carbs. But something that I found out after the fact was that B1, vitamin B1, which I had taken that day, can actually influence electrolyte levels for some people, according to some practitioners, like functional medicine practitioners that I have been listening to. And so they don't really know why, but it can cause electrolyte shifts. And as somebody who seems to be very sensitive to electrolyte shifts, that would make sense to me. Within the context of other things like that I've had reactions to, like asthma inhalers and vitamin B12, I know that has caused issues for me in the past. So all of this, like also within the context of people in the support groups I know have talked about B12 being an issue for them for periodic paralysis. I didn't realize that people had also had issues with other B vitamins. And so that was kind of a aha moment for me. I did learn from nutritionists and functional practitioners that there can be paradoxical reactions to supplements, so I've also considered whether that might have been the case for me. The reason that I'm not going to try those supplements again necessarily, unless I really am convinced by a medical doctor, is that even people who have tried microdosing in the periodic paralysis support group, microdoses of B vitamins, have had severe issues with those. So this experience and that knowledge from them kind of makes me very leery. Needless to say, I did not like feeling the feelings that I had. I do not like having those feelings. And so on day 2, I took out the B1, B5, methylated folate, and zinc and copper. I kept the B2 just because I had been taking it already, and so I thought, I've already been taking it and I hadn't had these severe experiences with it, then I think I'm okay taking it for this extra day just to see. On day 2, I also took 80 MEQs of potassium chloride throughout the day to help get rid of the mild anxiety that I was still having, the extreme fatigue I was still having, mild muscle weakness, and body aches and pain that I was then having. So that seemed to help significantly. Normally, my daily dose of potassium is between 40 MEQs and 60 MEQs, so it wasn't that big of a jump for me. Day 3, I took out the B2 as well, and I was feeling better, much better by day 3, significantly better. And I thought maybe the B2 has been affecting me more than I thought. So I decided to come off that completely as well. So my kind of best guess with all of this is that I not only don't do well with B12, but maybe also the other B vitamins. So this is not, definitely not meant to be prescriptive for anybody. This, I think, largely has to do with having periodic paralysis and those electrolyte shifts maybe that are a part of it. If you're somebody that's affected by electrolyte shifts and you've had issues with B2 or have not had issues with B2, I'm sorry, B2 or B vitamins in general, if you have not had issues with them, I'd be really interested to hear from you. So please comment below if you have had experience with that. But for me right now, I am definitely not taking those again. I am hopeful about meeting with a integrative medicine specialist to get their thoughts. Right now, I am addressing the deficiencies that I see in the Cranometer app by with food. So I've taken those supplements off the table for myself, and I'm getting as much of them as I can from food. And so yeah, that is where I'm at. Like I said, definitely if this is something that you are considering either trying B vitamins or coming off of B vitamins or any kind of supplement for that matter, then I would highly recommend talking to your doctor. Don't take any of this as prescriptive, as always. But that's where I'm at. I'm going to do a video on my experience being laid off and what helped me in going through that experience, being somebody that has chronic illness and dealing with a layoff, and what I learned in the process, in case that might be helpful for anyone. If that is something that you're interested, I encourage you to check that video out. That will be coming up soon, and it's been great chatting with you all. I hope you're doing well. Let me know how you're doing in the post below. I know that I've had a lot of questions about how things have been going with supplements, so I would be interested to hear from your side as well. And I will see you all in the next video.